Good morning. Thank you, Carla. I'd like to begin, just take a moment of silence. Once you're a member of our institution, you are forever, and Senator Griego was a close friend of all of ours. We understand this is a tough time for his family. We could just take just a moment in our hearts to be silent about it, pray in your own way about what that family's going through and how Senator Griego, the sorrow he must be suffering at this time. Thank you. It's hard because we're all friends, and anytime we hear horrible bad news like that, it's very hard on all of us. The Democrats in both chambers are committed to the spirit of service and economic social justice pursued by Martin Luther King and President Obama. So it's a special day for us to both celebrate Martin Luther King and the inauguration of President Barack Obama. In our opinion, both those men exemplify service to community that is important to the Democrats in both. And that's what this meeting for the press, our first press conference, is about today, from all of us, House and Senate Democrats, and you see most of them are here, which is really very good. I'd like to start by introducing the House Majority Leader, to my right hand, Rick Miera, who's here. And House Majority Whip, Mo Maestas. And if you pan through the audience, you'll see our able senators and representatives that are all here right and ready to work on a Monday morning. I think one of the number one examples of government serving its commitment to the people was the passage and the upholding of the Supreme Court of the Affordable Care Act. I thought it was interesting that when at first people were saying, maybe it's not the best thing in the world, and they started calling it Obamacare as if that was a bad word, and the Obama administration just embraced that. I think it's important to note that that is not a partisan issue, that health care is an important right for American, but also New Mexicans. And I want to applaud the Governor, Martinez, for deciding to go ahead and take that Medicaid expansion. It's very important that we all work together, and I think that's an example of where a Democrat initiative is looked at, evaluated, and anything that would be partisan would be set aside on behalf of the citizens of the state of New Mexico. And I think it bodes well for us, and I think it's exactly what the citizens of both the United States and the state of New Mexico want to see out of their elected leadership. So it's a brief press conference, but it's about those two gentlemen and the example they set with regard to what we should be doing when we serve our citizens. With that, I'd like to introduce Senator Michael Sanchez. I'm always happy to work with him.
Well, thank you very much for being here today, members of the House and Senate and the citizens of the state of New Mexico. Let me introduce, first of all, our leadership on the Senate side. And I think you all know the Honorable Mary Kay Papin, who is our President Pro Tem. We also have, as our Majority Whip, Mr. I was going to say something, but I'll hold on a little. The Honorable Timothy Keller. And as you can see, we have members of the Senate here with us, and I won't name each and every one of them. But before I begin my remarks, I would yield to our President Pro Tem to make a couple of remarks. Senator Mary Kay Papin, please.
Thank you and good morning. I think that probably Representative Speaker Martinez has really said what we are all thinking today about the kind of leadership that we have and the people who have gone before us and are still there working for service and community for people. Martin Luther King, I think, has been a wonderful example of showing how we need to move forward, how we need to be and welcome and respect diversity that we have in who we are, what we are, and what a tragedy it was, similar to what even went on with the Griego family and how we lost a great leader there. And today we have Barack Obama and his inauguration as our President of the United States. And again, we have a leader who is moving forward and making sure that all people are respected and that they're able to have the health care that they need and other issues that make their life a quality of life. And we appreciate that. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for being here today. You know, it's a very special day for a lot of reasons. The most special, of course, is because of President Obama being sworn in as we speak, as a matter of fact. And I'm really proud to say that all of us in this room voted for the president. It's just very special, and I still get goosebumps thinking about the first time he won that election, and now this second time, and really coming together as people to do what's best for this country and especially this state. So today, as we gather to honor and celebrate the life and spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King, his model of public service should be a guide for all of us. His dream of people being judged by the content of their character rather than their color of their skin is as relevant today as it was during his legendary 1968 speech at our nation's capital. His fight for civil rights helped shape many of the benefits we too often take for granted, benefits like voting rights and equality under the law. But the dream is not completely realized when it comes to economic opportunity, quality of education, and access to health care. With the governor's recent decision to accept federal dollars to expand Medicaid, the goal of providing health care to our children and neighbors is coming closer to reality. And as Speaker Martinez indicated, we really thank the governor for her going along with what is now the law of the land. I also encourage the governor to work with the legislature to fully implement the Affordable Care Act. It is up to us as policymakers to move forward to see that Dr. King's vision of our future includes quality health care for all, regardless of their financial situation. At this time, I'd like to introduce Senator Ortiz-Pino, who will talk about the bill that he's going to be sponsoring this session. It provides consumer protections and balances the influence of the insurance industry on the board that will govern the Affordable Care Act. And with that, I'd like to introduce Senator Jerry Ortiz-Pino.
As Senator Sanchez mentioned, the Affordable Care Act really has two ways in which people get care. One is expanding Medicaid. The governor's opted to do that now. And we all, I think, support that decision. It was a smart decision for the state of New Mexico, and it will help many hundreds of thousands of people in New Mexico get care. But there is another piece of that Affordable Care Act, and that is the health insurance exchange. And this is the part of it through which people who aren't eligible for Medicaid, who are employed but who are not earning enough to be able to afford insurance on their own, or whose employers don't provide it, they can get access to health insurance through the health insurance exchange. We had 2 years ago a bill that the Senate and both houses passed, sent to the governor. She vetoed. And I think at that time she was not sure that the Affordable Care Act itself was going to be fully implemented, and so she didn't want to move precipitously. The feds hadn't put out regulations, or any of the other states acted at that point either. We were trying to be one of the first ones to get going. With her veto, however, that left a vacuum, and in that vacuum, the interim committee, Health and Human Services Interim Committee, took a look at the possibility of coming up with something that we would work out jointly with the administration. Unilaterally, however, she's moved forward and has done her own. We have a serious reservations, not just about the legal basis of an executive moving without legislative involvement, but also about the substantive content of what's in her exchange. She's on the verge of now letting contracts to implement that exchange, selecting data systems and moving ahead very rapidly to implement it without the legislature being involved at all. We are preparing our own legislation, which we think has much stronger consumer protections in it. That bill will be passed, it will be introduced in the House by Representative Mimi Stewart from the interim committee, and I'll carry it for the interim committee in the Senate. And we would hope that we could work with the administration to find some kind of common ground between getting something implemented, not having to rely on the federal government to come in, but also being able to do it in a way that doesn't just turn it over to the insurance industry and let them make the decisions. The old metaphor of the fox guarding the henhouse comes to mind in this instance, and we really think that there are ways of finding a middle ground where consumer interests can be protected while using the expertise of the insurance industry, but not simply saying, okay, insurance industry, you run this for us. So that's our concern, that's what we're going to be dealing with, and we hope to be moving ahead with that legislation very quickly so the governor will have a chance to sign it before the end of the session. Thank you.
I inadvertently forgot to mention somebody, excuse me, that's in our leadership role in the Senate, and that's our caucus chair, Mr. Jacob Candelaria. So Jacob, I'm going to leave it up to Speaker Martinez to close this event, and I just want to let everybody know how well the Senate and the House will be working together. I think our relationship is very strong and is going to be maintained over the course of these next 60 days, as well as the next 4 years, I'm hoping. But with that, Speaker Martinez to close.
Thank you, Senator Sanchez, and just to echo what Senator Sanchez said, as you can see, you have a joint press conference of the House and Senate Democrats working very well together, and we want to say that we'll work well with the Republican members of the House and Senate, and I think you're seeing some of that already. And we also want to work with the executive on all of these issues. We hope to have a very productive session. Thank you very much for joining us today.